Hey everyone, this is Friedel Hakoreja Raven, and I'm here with my recap and review of Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, season number 1, episode number 8, which is titled End of the Line, and this is the season 1 finale. And I have to say that after watching, basically binge watching all these 8 episodes, I have to say that Camp Cretaceous really surprised me. I wasn't expecting it to be this much fun. Of course, I was skeptical when it started out, especially when I was watching the premiere episode. But as the episodes went on, and in episode number 4, everything really turned bad for the kids, and I was hooked. And yeah, now I do still have certain issues with some of the narrative choices that the writers decided to take. However, if you watch this show for what it's supposed to be, then I do think that you're going to enjoy it as much as I did. This show has a whole lot of heart. The characters are very interesting, and I really enjoyed their dynamics and the character arcs that everyone went through, and all in the span of 8 episodes, with each episode basically being only around 24 to 25 minutes long. So kudos to the writers for doing a whole lot with the characters. And yes, of course, as I've already said in my recap and review of the premiere episode, kudos to the writers and the animation team for really capturing all of the fun and enjoyment of what it means to be inside Jurassic World or Jurassic Park. But you know what? I'll talk more about that later, but let's get back to the episode. So, episode number 8, End of the Line, opens with Darius trying to help Ben on the monorail because in the previous episode, the monorail got attacked by this cluster of pterodactyls, I think. They're pterodactyls or some sort of similar dinosaur. Because the monorail had a whole lot of lights, the pterodactyls are attacking the monorail, so they had to break the lights. And then Ben ended up showing his bravery, and he ended up switching the tracks that the monorail is on. But then one of the pterodactyls went through the window, and Ben ended up falling, and Darius is trying to help. And I'm like, as Darius is trying to pull Ben up, I'm like, where the heck are the rest of the kids? Why aren't they helping Ben? But yeah, Ben falls and he's apparently dead, but of course, this entire experience weighs quite heavy on the rest of the kids. They weren't expecting any of them to die, so the group is one less member. And it's a very emotional scene. Sammy is close to crying. Yaz is trying to comfort her. Kenji isn't even able to process what just happened. And yeah, also have to say that Sammy's storyline involved her coming to Jurassic World as a spy for a competitor, and in order to save her parents' farm. And her parents didn't want her to go, but she decided to go anyway, and that ended up causing a bit of trouble between her and Yaz. And yeah, I also have to say that there are a whole lot of shippable moments in this entire show. I ended up shipping Sammy and Yaz, Brooklyn and Darius, and Ben and Kenji. So if you're watching this show and you end up shipping certain characters, you know what? I understand. These characters are amazingly shippable. I also looked it up, and it turns out that some of the writers working on this show also worked on She-Ra, Princess of Powers, for Netflix. And I'm like, you know what? I have a feeling that these writers knew when they were adding all of these shippable moments into this show. But anyway, coming back, the group is of course very distraught about Benji apparently dying. Darius realizes that the monorail is going away from the docks, and Darius is like, you know what? I can't control it, so we have to jump. And Brooklyn notices that the rail is going to lower itself near the ground so they can jump there. So everyone gets ready to jump, and Kenji ends up wearing Ben's fanny pack, and again, shippable moments. And the little baby Ankylosaurus is actually Bumpy, and she ended up imprinting on Ben, and she's one of the most adorable dinosaurs I've ever seen. So yeah, again, coming back to the shippable moments, the way that Kenji just decided to wear the fanny pack like that, and yeah, all the feels. So it's time for them to jump, and they all jump. And Kenji jumps with Bumpy, and he ends up losing Bumpy during the jump. And he's like, "Where's Bumpy? We have to find Bumpy. We have to find Ben. We have to see. We have to make sure whether or not he's still alive." And yeah, this is a predicament that these kids face because they only have 1 hour left in order to reach the docks before the ship leaves, and they can't waste time looking around for Ben, and they can't waste time looking around for Bumpy, and they have to make a decision. And basically, as far as they're concerned, Ben is dead. And Again, as they're talking about what to do, Kenji keeps on touching Ben's fanny pack, and I'm like, ooh, again, the feels, you all, the feels. So, moving on. This is where Darius asks Kenji about the service tunnels, which we already saw in episode number 2. And Kenji is like, "Yeah, let's go through the service tunnels in order to reach the docks sooner." And I'm like, "Why didn't you guys do that before?" The kids trying to make it to the docks. Dan and Roxy are still trying to figure out where the kids are. They saw the kids on the monorail, and the monorail was making its way towards the docks. So they're like, "You know what? The kids are heading to the docks, and we'll head there as well." And everyone goes into the service tunnels, and Kenji is confused. He doesn't necessarily know where to go in order to lead them to the docks. And as he's checking all of these tunnels, due to the park locking down, most of their passageways are locked down by these iron rods, and yeah, they're stuck. While that's happening, Roxy and Dan are trying to ask the person in charge of the boat about whether or not he saw 6 teenagers, and the person is like, "No, I didn't see any teenagers." And the counters are like, "You know what? We're going back into the park." But the person in charge is like, "No, if you guys refuse to get on the boat, I'm going to have to use excessive force." So the kids are on their own. As they're making their way through the tunnels, they end up finding this electric rod, and they decide to give it to Yaz so that she can walk quicker and more comfortable, because I guess she ended up breaking her ankle. I'm not really sure, or maybe she tore an ACL. So as they're walking through the tunnels, they end up noticing these compies, and yeah, they're like, "We need to get out of these tunnels." But then Toro ends up finding them, and Toro is after them, and they all have to run. And most of the episode is just them trying to run away from Toro. And they notice that the docks is only like 1,000 feet away, and they go through the passageway, and it turns out that the passage is actually blocked. Apparently, the workers in the park blocked it after the construction was done, and they're like, "You know what? We are stuck. We need to figure out what to do." And this is where Darius just breaks down, because as far as Darius is concerned, even though he is very knowledgeable when it comes to dinosaurs, all he has are book smarts, and he knows that the rest of the groups are placing a whole lot of responsibility on him, and they trust him to make the right decisions, and that's a whole lot of pressure for any little kid to go through, any young teen to go through. And they just lost Ben, so of course Darius is feeling very emotional, and this is where the rest of the group supports him, and they're like, "Darius, don't feel too bad about anything. We trust you. We are still with you, we still support you, and we do believe that you can literally help us by coming up with a plan." And due to the fact that Toro is after them, they have to act quick. So they end up searching through the crates, and they find this box filled with oxygen tanks. And because Darius recognizes these tanks, because his father, before he was dying, they ended up using the oxygen tanks, and Darius is like, "You know what, these tanks are very flammable, we can use that to distract the Toro." So they come up with a plan, and they make a fuse, and however they are unable to light it with the electric rod they have. And this is where Kenji takes out Ben's hand sanitizer from his fanny pack, and they use it to light the fuse. And yeah, even in that, as far as the kids are concerned, Ben still came true. So they push the box filled with oxygen tanks on fire towards the Carnotaurus, and the Carnotaurus just pushes it away, and there's a huge explosion, and there's fire everywhere. And yeah, basically the rest of the episode is all about the kids trying to run away from the Carnotaurus, and Darius is like, "You know what, I have to make a stand." He grabs the electric rod, and he notices an oxygen tank behind the Carnotaurus, and he just throws the electric rod at the oxygen tank, and there's a huge explosion, and everyone is trying to protect themselves. And you can see Yaz and Sammy clinging onto each other. Like I said, a whole lot of shippable moments. So after the explosion, the Carnotaurus is clearly burned, and I really enjoyed this scene because it's basically a face-off. The burned Carnotaurus is looking at the kids, and the teens are like, "You know what, Carnotaurus, if you want a round 2, we are ready for you." And the Carnotaurus is like, "You know what, I'm good, I'm just going to head on my way," which makes sense because Carnotaurus is a predator, and when it comes to fighting and trying to kill other people or other creatures, a predator doesn't really want to get itself hurt. So the Carnotaurus just walks away, and the kids are like, you know what, we are stuck here, we need to figure out what to do. And it turns out that the explosion that just occurred, it also broke away a portion of the seal. So the kids go through it and they're running to the docks, and it's morning time, and yeah, the ship has already left. And the kids are like, you know what, we are stuck here, maybe someone will come find us, right? You know what, maybe, I'm not really sure. And the teens are like, all we have is each other, so we need to regroup, we need to help each other to survive, and we will survive. And we get this shot of Roxy and Dan on the ship, and Roxy is telling the captain of the ship to turn the boat around because you need to go and save the kids. You know what? If season 2 ends up being Roxy and Dan trying to save the kids, I'm here for it. Now, before the episode ends, we see Bumpy walking towards Ben's party, and Ben is alive, you all. So, yeah, like I said, even though this was a very enjoyable season, you can tell that it's primarily aimed at kids, and there's nothing wrong with that because like I said, I'm an adult and I had a whole lot of fun watching it. But I do think that you need to watch this show after realizing what it actually is. It's a fun Jurassic World show with action and mystery and horror, but it's basically a kids show, and yeah, take it for what it is and you're going to have a whole lot of fun. I will be doing a written review of this for the Geekiary. I have a whole lot of thoughts that I want to share, and of course I'll be diving deep into the shippable moments. And yeah, I really hope that we get to see certain ships in season number 2. And I am excited to see what's going to happen in season number 2, how these kids are going to fare. I can't wait for Darius and the rest to reunite with Ben. Maybe there are other survivors on the island, who knows? Maybe some crazy adults ended up surviving. Again, who knows? Let me know what you guys thought down in the comment section below. And until next time, stay happy, stay safe, stay blessed. I'll see you guys later.